The point is, estate planning is not just about distributing your wealth or your assets that you've acquired over time so your kids can inherit a bunch of stuff. It's about creating a lasting legacy that empowers future generations. It's about giving them their heritage, right? Preserving family traditions, values, avoiding disputes, right? Empowering heirs and maintaining control over their assets, right? Giving them control. A well-crafted estate plan ensures that your impact endures, shaping the lives of descendants for years to come.
You are listening to the Legacy Talk podcast hosted by James A. Jones,
attorney at law and founder of Sound Legacy Law, PLLC in Tacoma.
Attorney Jones is here to talk about how to best protect your family, assets, and wealth. Pulling stories from his more than 20 years of helping families and business owners protect their assets, create their estate plans, preserve their wealth, and plan for the future. Nobody wants to think about estate planning, but life has a way of sneaking up on you, and at any moment, something unexpected could happen that will leave you regretting not having acted sooner. So join Attorney James A. Jones in the Legacy Talk podcast, and together learn how to plan for your future today and have peace of mind tomorrow.
Welcome to Legacy Talk. I'm your host, James Jones. I'm an estate planning and probate attorney in Tacoma, Washington. I've been practicing for over 20 years, and my main practice areas include estate planning, probate, and estate administration. On Legacy Talk, we discuss topics surrounding families and estates. Estate planning is often a confusing and complicated topic, but my goal with this podcast is to make it understandable and accessible to those who need it. So if this is something that interests you, I'd appreciate it if you click the subscribe button and like this episode so that you can follow along as we break down the barriers to estate planning. I'm excited as always to get to today's topic. Today's topic is powerful legacies, embracing the belief that estate planning empowers future generations. Because as Whitney Houston said, the children are the future. So on today's show, we're talking about powerful legacies, embracing the belief that estate planning empowers future generations. So let's get to it. Whitney Houston might have actually said it best. I believe the children are our future. Teach them well and let them lead the way. Show them all the beauty they possess inside. Give them a sense of pride. Make it easier. Let the children's laughter remind us how we used to be. That's from her song, The Greatest Love of All, written by Michael Masser and Linda Creed. I found out that she wasn't the first to record that song. I think she might have been the third. She's definitely the most famous version of that song. But check it out on Wikipedia or wherever you like to check this stuff out. But there's a couple other versions out there. That last line also, by the way, might not be relevant to today's show, but that's okay. I'm not sure that we need to take the children's laughter to be reminded how things used to be. Maybe we should. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. So this week I was a guest on a friend's podcast. He's a financial advisor. It's a financial podcast. But the first question that I was asked when I was there was what advice I had on raising teenagers. And for reference, I have 5 kids. 3 years ago, I had 5 teenagers. Now I have 4 teenagers. The oldest one aged out. And in a few weeks, I'll be down to 1 teenager. Those of you who know me can figure out the math on that. Anyway, it's hard to give advice on parenting, though, right? Much like the practice of law, where we say we're practicing since things change so much. They're always changing in law. Parenting is also a learn-on-the-job kind of endeavor. So what was my advice? I think one of the most important things that you can do for your kids is be an example to them. You're their parent, after all, right? They already look up to you as their mom or dad. But my thought is that if you like how your life is now and how it's turned out as an adult, you've set the path for them, right? You're their first set of footprints. You know, like when they follow you in the snow and you've left these massive footprints and the little kids are trying to, move their little legs and put their little feet in those footprints. Or if they get your shoes on, right, and are walking around the house in your big shoes. Usually it's men's shoes, maybe. But mom's shoes sometimes are like they put the high heels on or something, right? As teens and young adults, though, they're not wearing your shoes as much. Maybe they are because you have the same size shoes. That's kind of how my house is. At least with my daughters. As teens and young adults, they can look to your life as a blueprint for theirs. And I'm not saying that kids should, or even have to be, or should, right, be exactly like their parents. But what I think I mean is parents who set an example or a bar for their kids have the opportunity to emphasize that this way works, right? What I've done works, and I'm happy, And I know that what I've done has led me to have a happy life, right? And so if we're looking to have a happy and effective and a productive life for our kids, you would think that the life that we've led, if we're satisfied with it or, think we're on the right track, is a good way to say, hey, we could be the blueprint for what you could do, right? And emphasize that, hey, this way works. An example is powerful, right? It's powerful stuff. I was lucky to be born into a family of overachievers. My parents were the best. I had great parents. Both are deceased now, but I was the youngest of 5. My mom loved and accepted like nobody else. She was always a friend to the friendless. She was always the support to those who didn't have any. My dad was a smart, well-educated, funny, very strong personality guy, gregarious, and he drew people to him, right? He could talk to anybody about anything. I remember one summer when we went on a scouting trip. One summer, I grew up in South Jersey. We went up to upstate New York and we stopped for directions regularly to try to find where we're going. And he's always asking everybody about their tomatoes. How's your tomatoes? And I'm like, Dad, I'm like 13 or 14. Dad, why do you keep asking people about your tomatoes? But, that's just kind of guy he was. And he just wanted to talk about everything and anything with people. And I don't necessarily have that, but I'm turning in that way a little bit more maybe. I don't know. But I was the youngest of 5, like I said. My oldest brother was a neurosurgeon. My second oldest brother is an anesthesiologist. My sister, who may be the smartest of all of us, was a nurse by training, but is an accomplished painter, and she's basically the embodiment of everything that my mom had and more. My third brother is a veterinarian by training, but he's also an accomplished herbalist entrepreneur. So I had a high bar to reach for myself. So not only did my parents set example, but my siblings set an example for me. And I'm the oddball, right? I'm the non-medical lawyer. Pre-med didn't pan out for me my first year of college. I took a different route. And I've always said that I underachieved at high levels, but, I had a good example set for me, right? And I had sort of a path to follow. Like, I saw what my parents did. I saw what my siblings did. And that helped me sort of structure my life. And why am I rambling about this, though? Like, what's the point, James? What are you talking about? Why are you rambling about these examples and footprints and wearing your parents' shoes? Because today we're talking about how example can empower future generations. That's our topic, right? And so I've got some points here to make that hopefully are pretty good. We need to embrace the belief, right? Embrace the belief that estate planning empowers future generations and creates powerful legacies. And so the first thing I wanted to talk about in this, how is this related to estate planning? And maybe it's a stretch. I don't know. I don't think it is. The first thing to think about is with estate planning is financial security and stability. Okay. Estate planning involves creating legal structures such as wills and trusts to protect your assets from creditors, lawsuits, other potential risks. And it ensures that your wealth is preserved for your intended beneficiaries, providing them with a stable financial future and a foundation. And a comprehensive estate plan can significantly reduce the impact of estate and inheritance taxes on your heirs. Utilizing strategies like gifting, charitable organizations, trusts can reduce the tax burden on your estate, preventing and preserving more wealth, preventing your wealth from going to taxing authorities, and preserving your wealth for your kids. Additionally, effective planning reduces probate costs, allowing your family to maintain more assets for their future needs. Right? So that your beneficiaries have the full power of your estate with them. And that's important, right? Like, that's maybe the nuts and bolts of it. Okay. Why would we waste our estate? Why would we waste our money that we've worked so hard for if we don't have a plan in place? And so that's number one. The second thing to consider about your estate planning is preservation of family values and traditions. So the estate planning is not just writing a will or a trust. Estate planning also talks about, well, what happens to your heirlooms? What about your family memories? It allows you to specify how your personal and family values are perpetuated, right? This includes passing down family heirlooms, documenting family history, setting up foundations or trusts that reflect your values. And these actions ensure that your legacy extends beyond you and beyond financial assets, which enriches future generations down the road, right? It gives them a sense of identity and heritage. I always enjoy reading or hearing stories from my ancestors, right? I'm third generation. My great-grandfather came from Wales as an 18-year-old kid, having worked in mines his whole life to that point, and came to the United States. And my grandfather, his son, became a politician, accountant. He did all kinds of things through the Depression. His son, my dad, became a ceramic engineer, got a doctorate, PhD in ceramic engineering, was a professor in college. His kids are professors, right? Are professionals, I should say, sorry. Doctors, lawyers, nurses, artists, entrepreneurs, right? So that's pretty cool, right? That's the legacy, right? That's our legacy. And so my life is enriched by knowing the heritage and knowing that my great-grandfather came here with nothing. He had to work as a kid in mines in Wales, right? And now we've progressed to the point where we're not working in mines now, right? We're working with our minds. We're not working with our hands. We're not forced to do hard labor because of the legacy that they created for us. Another thing that you can do is charitable contributions. That is powerful for your kids. By making charitable bequests in your estate plan, you can support causes or things that you enjoy and that you support, that are important to you. And this not only furthers those causes, but gives a sense of philanthropy to your heirs. And you can establish trust, you can establish foundations of your own. You don't have to do that, though. You can just give to the things that you like and let your family know, right? It creates a lasting impact for those organizations, also for your family. And it encourages future generations to continue those philanthropic endeavors, right? And make a positive difference in the community, right? So knowing that you can support those around you who need support, or the organizations or causes that need your support, is powerful. And being someone that sort of gives your time or gives your money. I did an episode, I think it came out a couple weeks ago. When this airs, I think it'll have been a couple weeks, about charitable giving. And it's not a sexy topic. It's not interesting necessarily. And it's not super universal, but it's really important as far as like estate planning goes and legacy goes. And because it's really where you can make an impact when you're gone, right? And make an impact to see, hey, kids, I'm going to give some of my money to the causes that are important to me. And I'm going to give some of my time to those kinds of causes that are important to me. Because I believe it's important to give back, right? When I've had success or, accomplishments or whatever, it's important to give back to those who don't have it, right? And so that's something that if you impart that to your kids, they'll be benefited from, right? The third thing that estate planning helps with regarding your legacy and creating powerful legacies is avoiding family disputes. Detailed estate plans are critical, right? Wills and trusts and beneficiary designations provide explicit instructions on how your assets should be distributed. This clarity helps prevent misunderstandings and conflicts among your beneficiaries and family members, and fosters a harmonious transition rather than a contentious one. That's one of the biggest things that we see in estate planning. I've been an estate planning attorney for 21 years, and one of the biggest things that happens is if you're not clear in your estate plan and you don't consider what happens with your stuff, and you don't consider who is in charge of your estate plan and who's sort of making these overall decisions with regard to what to do, it can blow up a family, right? It can blow up a family. And I've seen more often, not more often than not maybe, but often enough and more often than I'd like to see siblings basically hating each other at the end, right? And some of that stuff was started before the parents died, right? Some of that stuff is deep and old, right? And that's what we're talking about during your lifetime as a parent, is like, let's keep this family together, right? Let's keep these kids together. Even if they're grown kids, right? They can have their own grudges or whatever, their own conflicts with their siblings or whatever. But I think it's important to show that's not how we want to treat our siblings and our family. We want to be together, right? And so it's important to appoint people in charge of your estate who are pragmatic and thoughtful and patient and open about the process. And that does a ton to keep the estate moving forward, the administration side, whether it's a probate or a trust administration. It makes the world of difference to have that executor or trustee who is able to manage the estate in such a way to provide detail, right, to the beneficiaries, to be thoughtful in how to communicate, right, as to not hurt feelings and make enemies, right? We want to have someone that really can interact with people. And I did a whole episode on this. What do you want to have in your executor or trustee? I don't know. It's probably 10 episodes ago or something like that. So check that one out. That's really good. Things to look for in a trustee or executor. So we want to make sure that is a job, right, that's handled responsibly according to your wishes. And these give you peace of mind. It gives your beneficiaries peace of mind. They can prevent disputes like we talked about. Number 4, empowering heirs with knowledge and resources. Estate plans can include provisions for funding education, like setting up education trusts for your kids or grandkids, or 529 plans. But the baseline is this: by helping with education, investing in the education of your heirs, you empower them with knowledge and skills needed to thrive. And I'm not saying everybody has to go to college. College can be overrated. You know, if you want to be an electrician or if you want to be a tradesman of some kind, you don't really need to go to college. At least you don't need to go to college to learn that, right? Maybe you want to go to college for business. Maybe you want to learn to go to college because you want to be a literature major or something, or English or something. Maybe you're interested in that, but that doesn't pay the bills. There's nothing wrong with that. I was a German major. European studies and German, both worthless for getting the bills paid, hence law school. But, you know, in your estate plan, you can set up mentorship programs. You can do scholarships, potentially. You can create the need for sort of family councils in allowing your heirs to effectively manage your assets. You can also set up trusts that are structured in such a way that determine how your kids receive their inheritance, right? Sometimes, like I get this a lot, James, I don't want my kids to be trust fund kids. And there's ways to set up a trust where you can incentivize work, you can incentivize buying a house or opening a business or going to college, those kinds of things, or getting education. I shouldn't say go to college, because a lot of the time we want to provide for trade school. You know, we want to provide for other non-college educational opportunities as well. And, you know, you can create situations where you stagger distributions over time. You set conditions for accessing funds. You can do income matching so that they have to work to get money, which is good. And so managing the inheritance properly and prudently can avoid pitfalls that they could have down the road and hopefully prevent having trust fund kids. If you're a trust fund kid, no offense, okay? But if you're a trust fund kid, you probably don't want your kid to be a trust fund kid. You might be perfectly great. You might have a great trust, but you're very successful. I'll back off on that. Anyway, the point is, estate planning is not just about distributing your wealth or your assets that you've acquired over time so your kids can inherit a bunch of stuff. It's about creating a lasting legacy that empowers future generations. It's about giving them their heritage, right? Preserving family traditions, values, avoiding disputes, right? Empowering heirs and maintaining control over their assets, right? Giving them control. A well-crafted estate plan ensures that your impact endures, shaping the lives of descendants for years to come. My family, going back to my great-grandfather from Wales, had no money, okay? My dad's dad lived through the Depression. My dad grew up during the Depression. They had no money, so we didn't inherit any money. But what we did inherit was legacy and respect for education and heritage and work, right? And discipline. And so if that's all you have to give, you don't have to give them millions of dollars, right? They can make their own money, right? That's not what we're really even talking about. Like having a little opportunity to go to college, that's good, right? Or get education or whatever they do. Or incentive to open a business or something like that. Those are good things. But if you can't give them any, if you don't have a massive estate that they're getting millions of dollars, which most people don't, right? You can still give them these values, this ethic that you've had, right? That helped you, that's helped your family thrive. And so really that's what it's about, right? That's what long legacies are built with. They're not built with money, right? You can have money and have terrible family. That's for sure. And so that's probably my biggest point of emphasis here. So there's no real story time this time because the whole intro was a story. For me, we did a little bit of history of the Jones family. So the intro segment was about my family, me. For those of you who've stuck around this long and want the answer to how I have 4 teenagers now, but in a few weeks I will only have 1, the answer is that I have 19-year-old triplets who are turning 20 very soon, leaving me and my 16-year-old daughter as the sole teenager in the house, hence going from 4 to 1. They're growing up, leaving the house. Anyway, so that's it for the bulk of the episode. Now for the something good in the news segment. And this is sports related. We sometimes talk about sports. This is more in the news maybe, and it could be something good. If you're a Seattle sports fan and you like basketball, in 2008 we lost our basketball team in Seattle. The Sonics went to Oklahoma City, which was a terrible day, and we all still hold grudges, many of us, against those Oklahomans. If you're from Oklahoma, no offense, but we're not fans of them. At least the owners of that team. Because they came in and they bought the Sonics and they moved them. Anyway, now that the league's media rights contracts are approved, the National Basketball Association's commissioner gave a hint as to when potential expansion talks commenced. They've talked about, well, we're going to expand back to Seattle, or we're going to expand the league. And they've always said, well, it's probably going to be Seattle on one of those because we lost our team. Adam Silver, in speaking to reporters at the NBA's Summer League in Las Vegas, identified this fall as the time when he and the league's executives and owners will consider expansion and whether cities like Seattle could get a new team. That would be great if we got a team, right? It's been a long time. 2008 is a long time ago. While this is no guarantee that the Sonics will be returning, most accounts indicate that Seattle has broad support for a new team. So we'll cross our fingers that happens. We've got a great arena. We've got an NHL team in there. We've proven that we can continue to have those sports. Seattle's a great sports town when teams win, I'll say. So we'll cross our fingers for the Sonics, and that's something good. Also in the news. That's it. That's it for today's episode. Thank you for listening to today's episode of Legacy Talk. If you liked today's episode and would like to learn more, please like and subscribe for more great content. I've been your host, James Jones, to your legacy.
Thank you for listening to the Legacy Talk podcast by attorney James A. Jones. If you found today's episode helpful, we ask that you like and follow us on all major platforms so you don't miss out on the latest episode. If you have questions for Attorney Jones, reach out at info@joneslegacylaw.com or visit our website at joneslegacylaw.com. Join us again next week for another episode of the Legacy Talk podcast.